Hi, this is Jim Jordan with Create Vibrant Health, and today is April 16th, 2020. And I titled this little video Truth, Freedom, and Health. And this is from a talk from Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, who's an MIT, I think he has 4 degrees, PhDs from MIT, who's talking a lot about what's going on in the world these days with coronavirus and the healthcare system and how big pharma has dominated politics and the mainstream media, and how there's a way to basically move through this without destroying the economy and people's health still being protected. But this appealed to me very deeply because this feels to me his approach feels exactly what my life has been about, which is truth. Number one, where initially it was just as a lawyer. I thought I got involved in law to seek truth, and I realized I was not really free to do that as an attorney who had to represent certain cases, and the truth was not the objective, it was winning. I was a little naive as a young man, idealistic, and I woke up to that. And same with health. I had struggles with health as a young man, and I tried conventional medicine, and that didn't really work, and that wasn't the truth for me. And truth for me was natural healing and spirituality. So that was my truth, and that led to more free life and then better health. So I'm doing this little talk on the video on live stream or on YouTube Live because I wanted to share some of my insights or feelings about things and see if people connect to that. One of the things I came across recently was from a quote from the former CIA director under Ronald Reagan, William Casey, said there was this, everybody knows the CIA is involved in disinformation to manipulate the public and into supporting things, whether it's wars or, policies, things that they want to advance. Usually their interest is coincide with some powerful economic forces in the US, corporate interest. And the quote was, we will know our disinformation is complete when everything the public believes is false. Everything the public believes is false. So obviously to do that, you have to control the media. And many of us realize by now that the media, commercial media at least, that's paid for by advertisements on television, is not giving us the truth about things. Not the whole truth, maybe not at all. But we can see from even recent history, obvious things like, was Saddam Hussein behind 9/11? No, but the entire media was saying that was the case. That was essentially the case in the early 2000s. And so that's one, with wars and with the economics and things like that, we're pretty aware that that's not the truth. Now, this is a new thing with and other pandemic viruses, also the scares of the H1N1 and all these other viruses were going to be millions of people dying, and that wasn't true. Didn't work out to be true either. So we have to start questioning is where are we going for our information? And if the sources of our information we're getting to base decisions on has a track record of being either outright lying or providing false, arguments or manipulating the facts to advance a cause, then we should consider other sources. And of course, by now we all know the internet is full of opportunities to seek things out. I'm not saying I know the absolute truth. I don't. I'm saying that I know what is not true. That I can see clearly, crystal clear what is not true. The truth is evolving. But the more people can see some things are just not true, there's something that just doesn't feel right about this, either logically or intuitively or in your heart, you just tell something's not true, then you can disregard that source for now. There's something lacking credibility. And I found sources that I think are more credible, and I trust some of those. I'm not saying you need to use those, but you have to seek out what feels credible and true to you, and then base our decisions on that. But let's start with some basic things. There's something that dawned on me the other day that that made me question if the people that are telling us that this coronavirus is so incredibly dangerous and can be communicated so easily through the air, through all kinds of ways that we can come across that we should be wearing masks and washing our hands constantly, staying inside, outside of the sun, and not getting close to each other. I was just curious, why is it we've never seen uh, Fauci or Gates or any of the governors wearing masks, even though they're surrounded by people all the time, far more than, far closer than 6 feet away, and they're in public all the time. They don't seem to be in the least bit afraid of the virus that they're claiming is so dangerous. And I remember hearing Fauci say something like, "Well, I get tested all the time, but that doesn't do anything for you. You get tested, you have it. There's no treatment for it from his perspective. So what good would it do if you're being tested all the time? You could catch it, and then it would kill you." So there's something about that that strikes me as like there's some incongruity, one of many, by the way, but this is an obvious one. It's right in front of us, right in front of our eyes, that none of these people that say that they are advocating shutting down the economy, there's no treatment until a vaccine comes, are in the least bit afraid of it themselves. So that tells me that they might not be telling the truth. I'm quite convinced they're not telling the truth about most things, including the statistics that are we're being told there's no actual test for the virus. There's tests for surrogate markers, which could be if you run the cycles of the test enough, everybody's positive. If you run it too little, then nobody's positive. So there's no test that's actually telling us if you have this virus. There's no proof that the virus actually causes the symptoms that people are having. There's no direct correlation. There's no the virus has not met the basic postulates of infectious disease. No virus has actually. Bacteria can, parasites can, but not a virus. No, it's never been done in science. So they're not giving us the truth about the science, the statistics, the danger, and the treatments. That much I can see. The treatments, many people, doctors have claimed that there's many effective treatments. Even Chris Cuomo for CNN did a whole program on his natural treatments he used to recover from the virus. Okay, so there are treatments, there's plenty of treatments, and there's no real logical reason, scientific reason, statistical reason, legal reason to deprive the American citizens of their basic fundamental rights to travel, to work, to assemble peacefully. There's no logical reason. There is no reason, period. Okay, you could say that perhaps in a situation where a person has been convicted of a crime, of course you can deprive them of their liberty, but not if a person has not been convicted of a crime or they're not a threat to society. On the possibility they might be a threat to society because they might be carrying a virus that might be able to be identified with a test, and that test, if you do have the virus, it might be communicable and it might harm somebody. All those mights and possibilities are justification for entirely shutting down the liberties and freedoms of the American people and the economy and destroying the economy. Give me a break. Who really, if you think about this carefully, really carefully, can say this is an intelligent decision to follow? Who can tell me that? Even the worst case scenario, that there's a bad virus running around, if you believe in that, that happens every few years, and tens of thousands of people die from it every few years. There's bad viruses going around. So does that mean that everybody should give up their freedom because some people will die from a virus? That's not freedom. That's tyranny. That's absolute tyranny. You could say then that people should never leave their homes because they could hit somebody with a car. They should never, there's a greater possibility of that. I mean, there's a lack of critical thinking, what I'm seeing, a lack of really deep critical thinking that I'm seeing. And although it's changing, there's a lot of things that we're just not being made aware of. Most people think that this is something that all of society, that there's a consensus that this is the correct thing. But no, there's protests going on around the United States, Canada, throughout the world. You're not hearing about it because you're getting your information from corporate media that's paid for by big pharma and other corporate interests. So there's protests going on all around the world, and these are just people that have decided for themselves that the threat of this virus is far less than the threat of losing their liberties and their ability to work and provide for their families. Now, that's the way the decision should be made. If there was something so dangerous floating around in the universe that people are dropping like flies, then I would be the first one to say, I'm not going out. I'm staying in here until we figure out what the hell's going on. But that's not happening. Okay. So there's a difference between, in an authoritarian society, there's a small group of people that make decisions and impose that on others. That's, in our case, the governors or the president or, a dictator of some kind or an elite of some kind. Um, but that's not the way in a free society it works. The authority comes from the bottom up. It's the people decide for ourselves. That's what, in a sense, the free market decides. We'll decide for ourselves if there's a dangerous threat out there. We'll decide for ourselves. If it is, then we'll take precautions. And all those people that are really afraid that the virus could be hanging around on some surface that could get in them and kill them. Now, I understand that you might feel that way. You should take precautions. You should wash your hands. You should stay inside. You should wear a mask, take vitamin C, or take, hydroxychloroquine or whatever else you want. Do whatever you feel you need to do to take care of yourself. But to impose your view on the rest of society through the agent of a governor or some type of mini dictator is anathema to the American system of government, which is freedom. Essentially, the government exists to basically to protect our liberties and freedom, the Bill of Rights, and to produce and has certain limited functions, very limited functions that we've given them. We've authorized them in contract, in the constitutions, the state constitutions and the federal constitutions. So those are all legitimate. They have a function to print money that's backed by an asset, a stable asset. They're not doing that, but that is a function that they have. They can declare war by Congress, not by the president, but Congress can declare war. There's certain taxation powers they have. There's all kinds of powers. They're very limited. They're in the Constitution. The states have limited powers too. They're in the state constitutions. And the governor does not have the authority to write laws. The governor executes laws. The state legislatures pass laws. And if those laws violate your fundamental rights, those are not law. Those are attempted law that have usurped the freedoms of the people. So those are also not law. So there's ultimately the authority resides in the people. Ultimately, we created governments and we can disband governments. That's the way it is. So as long as we are compliant with illegal orders, things will be as they are. And once we start to wake up, which many people are, they're all around the globe. If you check out the Corbett Report or Del Bigtree, or there's plenty of sources that will actually let you know about what's going on in the world. They're not controlled by sponsors or a vested economic interest. They're interested in truth. You'll find out. So this ties into Dr. Shiva's principles, truth, freedom, and health, in that the first thing we have to do is to get to the truth. So we have to sift through the massive information. I do not claim to know the truth. I don't. I claim for me to see what is clearly not true, and then the truth is emerging. But I can also see that through my own direct experience of my own health and health of others, that there are plenty of things you can do if there is a virus that is dangerous to protect yourself. And that I have many different perspectives on different things, but truth is number one. We've got to get to the truth. We've got to start questioning our assumptions. And we can't even get to the truth if we don't have freedom. If we don't have freedom to leave our homes, luckily there's the internet. So there's possibilities, at least different ideas out there. They might be wrong or distorted or partial truths, but they're out there. At least we're not given just one thing. Like in the old days, we just had a few sources of information from the media. And it reminds me of the saying in the Cold War, when they said that in the USSR, everybody knows that Pravda, the government-controlled media was not true. It's called Pravda, means truth. So they knew that that the media produced lies. In the United States, they didn't realize it because they didn't realize they didn't quite realize that the advertisers controlled to a large degree the content they were getting. So disinformation is complete. Everything the American public believes will be false. That's William Casey said that in 1981. So we've got to start realizing there's lots of disinformation going on. Okay, it's pretty much, from my view, almost impossible for the mainstream media to give you the truth about anything of significance, because that is contrary to the interest of those that control, that finance those outlets of information. So it's not possible. It's just not. You're not going to get it there. You might get it other places. You might find it other, through little bits and pieces. Once in a while, something blurts through. But you got to look. So truth, and then freedom. You have to have some freedom to access, and we luckily have some freedom. When we get to the deeper truth, there's relative degrees of truth. There's going to be some freedom. There's going to be some relaxation. Like for me, I'm not as terrified of the virus. I'm pretty convinced it's probably a bad thing, but not any worse than any other things that are going around. Probably not as bad as even other things that are out there. And then when you have freedom, and freedom is how we really develop health. And health is not just physical health in this case. It's healthy economies, healthy relationships, healthy spirituality, uh, you know, uh, virtuous life, a good life, and a healthy mind, body, spirit. Okay, health comes from the pursuit of truth and freedom, the freedom that comes from that truth, and the freedom to actually access the resources you need, the freedom to produce your work and your gifts to get the return so you can take care of yourself. And that's the way I see it: truth, freedom, and health. Thank you, Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, for that clear communication. He is one of the sources I have turned to during this last month and a half or so. And I trust it feels very clear to me and resonant with me. And I could encourage people to check him out. Check out Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. Check out Del Bigtree. There's a lot of good. Check out Ben Swan from Truth in Media. There's a lot of sources of really good information out there that is really clean and more deep, from my perspective, more aligned with truth. And I encourage people to question everything I'm saying too. I'm not saying I'm the oracle of truth at all. I'm just giving you my perspective on it because I care. I care about my life, and I care about my community and my friends, my family, my partner, and everybody. I care about America. I care about our country, the constitutional republic that we have. I was a lawyer in my previous career, and I care about that. I took an oath to uphold the Constitution, and that oath has never left. And anybody who's been an immigrant that came to the United States also swore an oath to uphold the Constitution. And this is critical. As citizens, we have to know that you don't sacrificing your freedom for perceived security will deliver you neither. It will not. So do not think that by giving up your freedom, you can choose to give up your own freedom. That's your choice. But to request or demand or whatever, ask other people to give up their freedom, it's not going to give you. There's going to be a reaction. There's a massive reaction taking place now in the public now that you're not aware of, because if you're watching mainstream media, you're just not. Excuse me. You're not going to know it, but there's a massive reaction going on because this is at some deep level, the spirit and the soul of America is attuned to freedom, truth, and therefore health. And it's something that's striking us wrong about this, locking down society, keeping people in their homes, telling them how far they can stand apart from each other, based on information from people that have a horrible track record of being truthful and having any success, even any actual success with these modalities of treatment. So with that as a source of information, we're bound to get a bad result. So I implore people to dive deep into this, question their assumptions. And I know this has been long, this little video, but I just had to say this today. So thank you for listening. For those that have listened to this, I appreciate, there's millions of sources of information, and those that took the time to listen to me talk, I appreciate it very much. And I want to share my message. And I do believe there's hope. I believe things are potentially turning around. So wishing you good health, a good pursuit of truth, and freedom to live your life as you like, with the limitations that if you bring harm to others, that you're responsible for that. Your freedom ends where harming another begins. And if a person is a risk to society through crimes or whatever, if there's some way they can be proven that they have some condition that's going to transmit to everybody and kill them, then of course there has to be restrictions. But that's not been done yet. There's been no demonstration of that scientifically proven at all. There's nothing close to that. So something is going on. We don't know exactly what. No, I don't think anybody knows. But I do know what is not going on is what we're being told through the conventional media. I've looked at it, and I can see it's propaganda on steroids. So sorry, that's my bottom line uh, perception. Wishing you a wonderful day. Like I said, health, freedom, and truth. And God bless you, and hope to be in touch again soon. Take care.